Welcome to the Tough Decisions Network for Entrepreneurs. I'm Dennae Handford, and my wife, Dennae, and I interview successful people sharing stories behind tough decisions that they've had to make along their journey as an entrepreneur. On the podcast with us today is Mary Ottman. She's a professional leadership and communication speaker. Welcome to the podcast, Mary.
Thank you so much for having me, Dan and Dennae. I really appreciate it.
Well, we are looking forward to talking with you, and we want for you to get us started by just kind of telling us a little bit about your journey and where your focus is right now as an entrepreneur.
Well, it's really interesting. I actually just retired a year ago from Army Civil Service as an executive leader. And so, I'll tell you what happened. They opened the window for early retirement. It was only 2 weeks long, and I'd been there 27 years. And I said, that's enough. I got to go. So I ran through that gate and started my own business. So it's very exciting as a professional speaker and speaking and leadership coach. So it's just been an amazing first year of entrepreneurship for me, frankly. So I'm excited about it, you guys.
That's a pretty big transition. Have you always wanted to be out kind of on your own as an entrepreneur, or was that just something that, when the opportunity arose, that's what you decided to do?
I always knew I wanted to do something different. So it's kind of crazy. When I started, I'm like a lot of millennials now. I thought, I'll stay here a little bit and then I'll jump. But it just worked out for me that every time my interest changed, the Army changed. So I kept myself really marketable. I didn't get a really deep technical degree. I got an MBA. I got a master's in leadership, But as far as entrepreneurship, that probably started about 4 years ago. I'm like, okay, this online thing, this is looking kind of interesting. I really like that because I did software for 15 years of my career. So I really love tech and software. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to start studying all this. So, I started with Marie Forleo in B School and just started the whole training thing. So that's kind of my journey as I stuck my little toe in the water and was like, ooh, I kind of like this. And even bigger than entrepreneurship, I knew I wanted to help people. I knew I wanted to help, especially women, because a lot of people don't get exposure to those formal leadership classes. And so they're kind of just, if you're lucky, you're thrust into a leadership role, but then you don't have the tools and the skills to really thrive at that and really advance up the ladder like a lot of folks do. So to me, it was like, okay, the Army loves training people. I have all these assets and resources and knowledge, and I want to get out in the world and help other people to be successful and reach their dreams. So it was more than I want to be a business person. It was, I want to help people, and this is how I'm going to do it.
It's just nice that you can help people and it's business all at the same time.
Now, show me the money. I'm gonna have a Cuba Gooding moment right here.
Well, I want to start us off, Mary, with a tough decision that I like to call it the sore thumb tough decision. So even though you've only been an entrepreneur for a year, I know you've probably gone through something, made some sort of a tough decision that did not have that good of an outcome. So walk us through that tough decision and some of the lessons you learned through it.
Well, like most entrepreneurs, can you ever have enough money saved up for Murphy's Law your first year, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm actually a speaking coach for people. And so I thought, okay, I want to get out there. And first of all, I'm also a professional speaker. And I thought, okay, I want to eventually be a keynote speaker. So I'm going to sign up for a pretty elite speaker training program. Well, to do that, here was the tough decision, y'all. Dave Ramsey, if he was in his grave, he'd be rolling. I had to rob my retirement fund and spend a lot of money with zeros on the end. And then we're not even going to think about the tax hit I took to do this because that's just going to make me nauseous and we just can't have that. So, that was my tough decision is how badly do I want this and what's my return on investment? And, I'm an engineer by degree, software person, by practice. And so I'm a logical thinker, and going and robbing your 401k that's not an easy decision, right? So I did it, and I was in the program working with this coach for about a year and a half. And actually, in August, it all kind of came to a head, and I realized I'm never going to get my money's worth. Like, it's not this is not what I thought it was. The coach's methods were actually very harsh. And this is very important because I actually am a big believer in coaching for entrepreneurs, because we get stuck in our head and it really helps you to keep going and propel and focus on the right things. But this one, you got to get the right personality fit. If you thrive under positive feedback, then you need to know that about yourself and find a coach that operates that way, right? So basically at the end of a year and a half, I had gotten 2 1-minute speeches in front of the speaking coach and 1 2-minute. So total of 4 minutes in a year and a half for multiple tens of thousands of dollars. And just add another 30% on top of that for the tax hit that I took, right? So you want to talk about a decision that'll, like, well, we can't really talk about this part much longer because I'm going to get sick, but it's just, but that's the rough decision. But the lesson I learned from that is, people can be great salespeople, and you go and sign up for these programs because, look, sales is not my thing because I've been a public servant my entire life. I haven't had much experience. I'm just authentic. I will help you and it's going to cost this much. And if you don't want to do it right now, hey, that's on you. But there is a craft to sales. So that's what I wanted to get. But good salespeople write good sales copy and they draw you in, and you really have to dig in and understand their coaching style, talk to their satisfied clients, try to find their dissatisfied clients. Like, well, how do they treat people when there's a disagreement? There's a lot of things that you can kind of dig around, and the community is small. You can find, people that have experience either way, if you just start asking.
So it sounds to me like you're not trying to say, don't get a coach, don't get a mentor, but try to vet that person a little bit more and maybe talk to some people who have used them and see if they actually fit in line with the way you need to be coached and the way you need to be mentored along that process.
Absolutely. And one other thing that was really interesting that I learned in this industry, in the coaching industry, people will say they have earned a 7-figure, or they have a 7-figure business. You got to check, because sometimes they're intending that to be cumulative. Not just annually. And so I've seen that several times. And so, hey, I'm a 7-figure earner. And you go dig in and they're like, well, I've been in business 5 years. I mean, okay, you're bringing in money, but we don't know what your expenses were and how many years was it. You just need to know what people are saying, what time base they're talking about. $1 million in a year is really exciting, versus, but not if it took you $2 million to get it, so you have to really dig in and understand what people mean when they talk numbers.
How much did you actually make on your IRS age adjusted gross income at the end of the year? How much did you take home?
Everybody's like, oh Lord, she's an engineer. That's what she's going to do now. She's going to get crazy with the number. But just generally speaking, just kind of know, how many years did it take you to make that $1 million? And that's just an easy way to kind of, figure it out. So,
well, and one of the things that Dan and I have learned too is a lot of coaches will allow you, 30 days or 6 weeks or something like that to work with them and see if it's going to be a good fit. That's always, I think, something that people should really look for and want in a coach, because if they're comfortable and they're confident in what they can do, then they won't mind giving you 30 days to make a decision.
That's actually, I've seen it either way. Either they don't ever talk about, y'all, I spent a lot of money on training in 4 years. I've had a lot of different coaches. And I'm just saying, the ones that I've dealt with, either it doesn't come up and they just say you can drop anytime, or they lock you down with a contract and it's locked after 7 days. Mm-hmm. So, and that was the case with this particular one. There was no getting out of it, right? Once you figured out you had a personality fit. But I agree with you. If you're comfortable and you're confident as a coach, then what's the issue? Put your money where your mouth is. If it's not a fit, then you can walk away, and that's fine. That's how I operate. That's, I absolutely agree with you, Dennae.
And if you're getting ready to hire somebody and you don't have that in place, just ask for it, and if they're not willing to do it, then move on to the next person. There's got to be somebody that's willing to, coach somebody like Mary, who wants to have a lot of, numbers and is the engineer mom. After listening to this podcast, I'm not sure if anybody wants to coach her anymore, but
They do. Listen to this Southern accent. Everybody loves talking to me, Dan. Wait a minute now.
Well, I want to shift here a little bit, Mary, and I have you talk about a really tough decision that you had to make that had a really good, positive, or more, or even better outcome than you had expected, and the lessons you learned through that one.
Okay, so I thought about this, and here's the surprise twist I'm going to give you. It's the same decision. So it's related to that same coaching program. So in August, we were at an event with this coach. There's probably about 60 of us, and it was also being streamed online for like the world forever, recorded and rebroadcast. And the first night, we were fussed out so badly. The statement was made, this is a quote, okay, 80% of you guys absolutely suck. And it just went on and on and on and on from there. And I went home that night and I was thinking, first of all, if 80% of a room sucks after a 9-month program, I worked with them a year and a half, but this particular one was 9 months. That really says more about your coaching than it does us, right? I'm just saying. So, and I struggle because this coach is known for if you say anything, it can go sideways on you. It can get really confrontational. So the next day I went in there and I really thought about it. And this is going to come into when we talk about how to make tough decisions later. I thought, what do I stand for? I am an empowerment and leadership expert. And no, this is not my event. And there are 59 other people here. And I don't want to ruin their experience for them. But I have to say something about this. And so I did. I stood up in the forum and, I'm going to say coach the coach. I was asked if I wanted feedback, and I said, well, if you're not going to tell me I absolutely suck, if you're going to give me something constructive, then yes, I would love feedback. And it was all very classy and even. But that moment, I tell you what, I walked away from that program. I didn't finish the last day, and we were supposed to get a speaker reel, and I didn't go to a book launch party. We all did a collaborative book, and I've got a chapter in there. But I didn't go to the book launch party. Y'all, that's that $30,000 out of my retirement fund, and I did not get all my money's worth, right? Because I walked away from it, and that's Dave Ramsey again. That's it's really wouldn't have been considered a good money decision, a good ROI decision. But here's the great outcome. I left and my mind started churning, and I was like, look, I've taken a lot of programs, and speaker programs, either the ones that I've seen and experienced, they tell you how to craft a speech. So this is who I help. Micro niche came out of this. Because if you're a transitioning 9-to-5 professional or a new entrepreneur, speaking is the number one way, the best way to get in front of the most people, get the most ROI, return on investment for your dollar, the most leads to help you build your business quickly. But now the programs I've experienced and I've seen out there, they either just help you craft the first speech. Well, there you are, practicing your first speech in your bedroom in the mirror. And then the opposite are these elite programs that go, okay, here's how you get gigs. Here's how you get booked. Here's how you build a 7-figure speaking business, speak to sell and all that. Okay, so now we went from talking in the mirror to being on stage under the bright lights in front of a room full of your ideal clients, and you don't want to blow it at crunch time, right? Yep. But where's that middle ground for new people? And so I tell you, I'm working now on a live event where I actually get folks that want to start speaking, and we're going to do fun activities. I actually used to be a country singer-songwriter too, performing in Nashville. So I bring in my performance background and my fun kind of Army boot camp. But it's going to be fun, and help people practice. Give them that safe practice ground in a small group where they can try different approaches and see what feels natural. And they don't have that, public speaking is the number 2 fear, right, after death. So instead of, oh my gosh, from bedroom to stage, this is that middle ground where I help them work on their speeches. They get a 1-sheet, they get a short sizzle reel, but a nice package to start with that doesn't cost thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars because they're not there yet. They just need something to start getting out there and practicing, because that's really the only way to get comfortable speaking, is to do it. The only way to get through it is to do it.
Well, and I think you have to understand that you also need to get back your $30,000 that you lost plus everything else. So it's going to cost at least $30,000 divided by however many attendees, right?
Well, I certainly wouldn't get that back in one event. No,
Sure.
That's to me, that's sunk cost. That's gone,
Sure.
But I learned that great lesson. Yeah. It's a great lesson. It really brought home to me that if you can spend that much money and get told you, quote, suck, then that's a lot of people, they're so scared to speak anyway. That's not the coaching they need, right? Yeah. They need that supportive, encouragement and feedback. And I actually did that with my employees. I would mentor my junior engineers, and I actually put some of them in an auditorium behind a podium using the entire sound system and had it recorded for them with just myself and two other people, giving our thoughts on their performance. But my career has been helping people to do that, because I'll tell you, in 27 years, I've sat through a lot of horrible Army briefings. It's really bad. Just because you know a lot about a subject doesn't mean you're very good at communicating it, right? And so that's, like I always would tell my guys, if Einstein had E = mc squared in a paper bag, and he's holding it in front of his face, and he's looking down in this bag, and he's looking at this little just formula of awesomeness, and he has to look up and be able to tell grandma and everybody else, what does it mean? Or else, and if he couldn't do that correctly, it would still be in the bag, only he would understand what was in there. He had to be able to communicate it to lay people that don't know, right? So communicating and speaking, oh my goodness, it is the number one enabler for your success, in my opinion.
Yeah, very, very important skill for everybody, but especially leaders. Talk a little bit about the strategies that you use when you are facing a difficult decision. How do you break that down and get to a place where you're ready to make a choice and go a specific direction?
Well, early in my life, I would run my decisions by 50 people and just waste a lot of time and angst and tums to get to what I wanted. But, probably in the last 5 years, I had that moment of, how do I want people to remember me? And when I went through that exercise, everybody goes through that. What do you want people to say at your funeral, right? And my thing is, I want people to remember me as caring, but also fair. I always try to do the right thing, and I always try to care about people when I'm doing it, whether it's, having to talk to an employee about a difficult situation or whatever. And so, for example, I used this on this last difficult decision we just talked about, and I thought, how do I want my daughter to remember me? When people bring up stories about how I act and the decisions I make, I want her to be proud of me, and I want to be proud of myself, that I have values and I stand for something, and that my decisions reflect that. So that's what I do, is I take that time to really be deliberate and think, okay, now this may be really a hard decision. Y'all, it wasn't easy to get in front of that room of 60 people and stand up and say, okay, look, this is not kosher. It was a major event, but you just, at the end of the night, you just have to know that you stand for something, and that if they put your actions against what you said you stood for, and you go, yeah, that book balances. She walked her talk. That's what I want to do. And it all boils down to, that's the Mary I want to be. So my quick test is WWTMD. What would that Mary do? Think about, what would the person I want to be remembered for do right in this situation.
All right, we're going to take a quick break and hear from one of our show sponsors. When we come back, we'll talk to Mary about some of her favorites as it relates to her life as an entrepreneur.
Have you ever thought about investing in real estate but find yourself so busy that you don't have time for it? Do you have FOMO, which is the fear of missing out? At HandfordCapital.com, we help investors with passive real estate investments that project better returns than traditional investment vehicles such as the stock market. If you'd like to find out more about our passive real estate investments, visit HandfordCapital.com. That's HANDFORD capital.com. We will jump on a call with you to discuss your investment goals and to see if our investments are a good fit for you. This advertisement is not to be construed as an offer or recommendation to buy or sell a security. Visit HandfordCapital.com. All right, we are back with Mary Ottman, and we are going through our series of quick questions and answers called the Trifecta. And Mary, I want you to get us started by talking about your favorite technology that you use in business that helps make your life easier as an entrepreneur.
Right now, that is Temi.com transcription service, TEMI.com. And literally, I've sent them video recordings, Zoom recordings, all that. And in 5 minutes, I get the transcribed file back. And I've gone through it, and it's pretty close. It just needs a few tweaks. So for the things I'm doing now with recordings and interviews and things, that's absolutely fantastic. And it's very inexpensive, frankly.
And what is a quote that you've heard or read that's helped you as an entrepreneur?
So I had to pick. The first one would be, do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better, by Maya Angelou. And I mean, what better statement for an entrepreneur, right? And then the second one was Will Smith, I will not be outworked, period. Both of those together.
What's a book that you have read and would recommend for our listeners?
Oh my goodness. Right now, the one I can't get out of my head is The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins, which is basically just do it. And that's because, you know, we all have that gut instinct to do things, and then our brain kind of like kicks us out of it and tells us it's not reasonable. And she's just got this 5-second rule, just 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, count it down in your head and just do it. Do whatever that gut instinct is, because you know what to do. It's your fear and your limiting beliefs that hold you back. So true in entrepreneurship.
And what's the next thing for you right now on your vision or dream board?
Well, it's my first online program, actually. It's Clear Your Path. And so actually, I'm building an online program that will help people that want to start speaking by honoring their path, taking a look at their past, figuring out what might block their progress, and then also helping them craft a roadmap to get over the obstacles that may be holding them back. And they walk away with a roadmap of what they can do right now to get out there and get started. So having that first I've been speaking. I spoke at Google back in April, and I spoke in Houston, you know, my own personal speaking, but this is my very first online course where I get to make, you know, I left the government. I left a really safe 6-figure job to help people. So this is huge for me. But, you know, that's, you know, on my vision board, that's just amazing. And we won't talk about travel because I could be here all day. That's good. I've covered up my vision board with that.
and how can the listeners reach you if they want to follow you more, get some more information about you, or maybe even some of these events that you have coming up?
Okay. Well, right now on Instagram, I'm at Marriott, MARYOTTT. There's 3 T's. And if anyone is interested in getting on the waiting list just to find out when my program is announced, and then you can get more information on it, it's at bit.ly, that's bit.ly/ and all this is lowercase, Clear Your Path sign up, all one word.
And we'll make sure to put those on the show notes as well for those of you who might be driving down the road or listening to this while you're working out. We'll have those on the show notes, those links, so you can easily click on those and be able to follow Mary whenever you get a chance there. So thank you so much, Mary, for being on the podcast with us today. You have lots of energy. Look forward to releasing this episode to our listeners. I know they're going to get a lot of value from it, and look forward to having you on a future episode as well as you continue to grow.
Thank you so much, Dennae. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Tough Decisions Network. Be sure to visit toughdecisions.net to gain access to show notes for this episode and to join our free weekly entrepreneur email, where we will send you news about the latest technology for your business, inspiring quotes, and the latest books for entrepreneurs. That's toughdecisions.net.